Welcome, this is Michael William Denney, and this is the video presentation for Rune Divination. Rune Divination is one of 3 books that I've written in the Rune Shamanism series, and those 3 books are Rune Shamanism, Rune Divination, and Advanced Rune Shamanism. This video we're going to be dealing just with the book Rune Divination. So this video teaching is to be used in conjunction with the book, so my recommendation is to read the book because I go into a lot of great detail about all kinds of things. This I'm going to be talking extemporaneously, and I'm going to be giving you some helpful tips as well as showing you practical examples of Rune Divination. So let's go ahead and just get started with some basic theory about runes. In my belief, the runic sounds, which make up the basics of language, were an oral tradition that was used for sacred spiritual initiation into the tribe. And I go into detail about that in the Rune Shamanism book and the video about where that came from. But I just basically want to put that out there, that the runes themselves are the sounds that make up language. And the Indo-European understanding, of which modern Western society has disconnected itself from. The Indo-European spiritual understanding traditionally is that sound is what creates the universe. And the specific letters and sounds and syllables that make up speech are magical in nature. And they exist independently. So the difference between Rune Shamanism and Rune Divination is Rune Shamanism is when you chant the sounds, when you meditate upon the sounds or upon the symbols, and you use them for self-transformation. And we've talked about that in Rune Shamanism book and DVD. But today we're just going to be talking about divination. So what is divination? It's fortune telling. It's using the runes as a way to gain messages from the spirit realm in order to answer questions. And whether that's questions about the future or whether that's questions about messages from the ascended masters, whether it's about, it's just a way to connect, to get answers. I have some specific interpretations of runes when it comes to using them for divination, and so I'll be sharing that with you. I'm also going to be talking to you about very important things you need to know to be effective and accurate in your rune divination practice. Okay, so let me give you some tips. First off, in order to be an effective rune diviner, rune magician, in order to get clear messages, you have to be clear. So that means that when you're doing readings on yourself, you're going to get mixed results. Sometimes you're going to get some clear results and sometimes you're not. And the reason for that is this, and this is important to understand. It's very difficult to get accurate rune readings if you have a personal agenda. So that's why, when you do readings for yourself, you're going to get mixed messages. If you do readings for your friends or your loved ones, it's going to be difficult to get clear messages all the time, unless you work really hard to not have an agenda. And I'm going to explain to you the mechanics. Just because you're doing a reading doesn't mean it's coming from spirit. In order for you need to be getting a clear reading, your 3 centers have to be working in the proper order. So let's talk about that. The human being, from a shamanic perspective, is made up of 3 souls, 3 centers. And these 3 centers have to be communicating effectively with each other in order for you to be able to have any kind of true psychic impression. And I'm going to share with you a little bit about how I learned about this and how how we can get into trouble in terms of being inaccurate with our divinations. Years ago, I went to a psychic, and I was wanting to know about my love life, and was I going to meet somebody and all that kind of stuff. And the psychic gave me some very specific predictions, and she told me when I was going to meet somebody, what she was going to be like, and it was very specific. And there were some things about it that she couldn't have known, but what was happening is that she was tapping directly into my subconscious fantasies. This happens all the time. That's why I say it's very important that you do your divinations without any personal agenda. Because if you have a personal agenda, that's going to influence the reading. If you're doing a reading about, let's say, a boyfriend or a girlfriend, and this is somebody that you have a personal agenda, you want them to be with you, you want them to like you or to love you. And so if you're going to do a reading about, what does he or she feel about me, or what's going to happen between us, you can pretty much guarantee that you're going to influence that reading. It's either my fears or it's my desires. And what that means is I'm tapping into my subconscious. Now, this is very important, because the subconscious is absolutely necessary. It is through our subconscious mind that readings come. Now I can explain to you how the three selves work when it comes to divination. Odin, Vili, the navel center, and Ve, the heart center. So when somebody says they're having a gut feeling, right, that's what they're talking about. They're talking about their subconscious is picking up from life force energy. So the subconscious, the navel center, is what creates our environment. And if we are clear within ourselves, and we're, all three of the selves are communicating and we're clear, then we create an orderly, clear external environment. Now, Fehu means cattle, and it's the it's the Germanic word for cattle, and it's found in other Indo-European languages. Latin, it's pecus. That's why we get the word pecos bill. It means cowboy. Cow bill, cowboy bill, pecos bill. And in Sanskrit, it's pashu. So it's the same word. Fehu, pecus, pashu. Same word. And the rune for that is this symbol right here, the F sound. So in divinations, this rune can mean multiple things. If we're talking about somebody who's asking about their financial life, this is going to be obvious. If it comes up right side up, it means at the very least no loss of finances, but very likely an increase in finances. But remember that Fehu doesn't just mean money, it means resources, because our word for fee is Fehu. It's the modern pronunciation of Fehu, fee. I charge a fee for my services. And I'm literally saying, when I say I charge a fee, I'm saying I'm charging a cow for my services. So the cow was the resources for the pre-Christian tribal Germanic people. And with the cow, you could get everything you needed. The cow had milk, which you could make into cheese. You had meat, which you could eat. You had skins, which you could make clothes out of. And you had sinew, which you could use as thread. You had bone, which you could use for tools or weapons. I mean, basically, everything you needed was within the cow. And so if you had your own cow, you had your own personal Walmart, because you could get whatever you needed from it. So that's why when we charge a fee, when we're talking about money, because that's what money does now. Money gives us the ability to buy stuff, resources. There's another context for which this will come up if you're doing rune divination. If you're doing rune divination professionally, the majority of your questions are going to be about love. And so when this rune comes up, let's say Jane gives me a call and she says, I just met John and he's amazing and I want to know, what does he think of me? So what happens when this rune comes up? Boink. It's like, well, you could say, well, he thinks you're money, which is possible. If you have enough information, does the guy live on the street? Is he homeless? Well, that's a pretty good indication that, yes, he's seeing her as actually a source of money. But I've also come to find that it doesn't necessarily mean that. It can mean, let's say, again, we're talking about men. This is very typical of men. If this rune comes up and Jane wants to know what John is thinking, and John is thinking of her as Fehu, raised, not blocked, right side up, then that means that she makes him feel successful. Treat right now, because this is somebody calling me to do a divination, so you get to watch what I do. Well, I would be happy to help you with that. So, what's going on? What would you like me to take a look at for you? Okay. Well, I'm very sorry you're going through that. That sounds really difficult. Well, let me take a look. I'm going to just take a general look at him. What is his name? Okay, so has he recently moved? Oh, I see. Okay. Okay, so that's why I'm seeing this, because I'm seeing a physical move. So that's the main thing that he's thinking about right now is I do see him. He's got a lot of painful feelings that he's not, facing. He's pushing down his feelings. That makes perfect sense. If you guys just broke up, he's probably got a lot of feelings that he's not looking at either. Going forward, I do see him doing some self-assessment and trying to figure out how he can make his life better and what hasn't worked and what will work. I do see some financial increase for him, so I don't know if he's going to get a job or get a raise or whatever, but I do see some finances coming to him. So you saw some of my tactics in there, and you saw in the reading some of the things that we talked about. thunderwizard.com, or you can go to thundershamanism.com, and there's a link to all of the books and DVDs.